You know that old cliche piece of advice? Never pick up a hitchhiker on a dark highway? Everyone's heard it. And everyone assumes the danger comes entirely from the person climbing into your car. But what if the terrifying part isn't the passenger at all? What if their sudden appearance is just a sign that you've already driven into a place you can never return from? My name is Dennis. What happened to me 3 years ago on Route 228 is the reason I still check my backseat every single time I get behind the wheel. And if you're driving right now, you might want to turn your music down. Your radio might already be trying to tell you something.
It was mid-November, a miserable, pitch-black autumn night where the freezing rain couldn't decide whether to stop or turn into sleet. I was driving back from my parents' place out in the sticks. It was well past 2 in the morning. I had about 90 miles left of completely empty, unlit highway, sandwiched on both sides by dense, dead woods. Fatigue was hitting me in heavy waves. To keep from drifting off, I kept twirling the knob on my old stereo, desperate for any radio station. But all I got was static, the cold, dead white noise of the airwaves. Suddenly, a sound cut through the crackle. It wasn't music. It was a voice. A very quiet, monotone, masculine voice. The reception was so bad I could barely make out the words. But the tone, it was unsettling. It sounded like someone reading off an endless list or a report. I cranked the volume. Mile marker 112. Fog. Object approaching. Mile marker 113. The speaker hissed. I frowned. I looked at my dashboard, then at a highway sign flashing in the glare of my headlights. The sign read, Mile 112. Weird coincidence, I thought. I chalked it up to fatigue and maybe some truckers messing around on the CB radio. But the static kept buzzing, and through the crackle, it broke through again. Mile marker 114. Stand by. Up ahead, standing right on the shoulder of mile marker 114, a shape materialized in the yellow glow of my high beams. A person stood perfectly still, arm raised. They were wearing an old, drenched canvas poncho with a deep hood pulled low. Leaving someone out on a highway in this weather felt like a death sentence. My hand instinctively reached for the brakes. The car rolled to a heavy stop just past the pedestrian. I clicked the unlock button. The back left door clicked open, and a blast of cold air rushed into the cabin, carrying the scent of wet earth, rotting leaves, and a strange, faint chemical smell, like medicine. "Thanks, man," a low, muffled voice muttered. The guy climbed into the back. He didn't pull back his hood. His face was completely lost in the shadows. "Heading towards the city?" I asked, pulling back onto the asphalt. "How'd you end up out here, in the middle of nowhere, this late?" The passenger didn't answer. I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was sitting perfectly straight, hands resting on his knees. It wasn't moving. At all. Like a literal mannequin. To break the awkward silence, I reached for the radio again, and immediately yanked my hand back. Piercing through the thick layer of static, a loud, crystal-clear voice boomed from the speakers. "Object secured inside. Movement resumes. Speed, 50 miles per hour. Mile marker 116. My heart skipped a beat. The voice on the radio, it perfectly matched my passenger's. The exact same low, muffled timbre. The exact same monotone rhythm. I snapped another look at the rearview mirror. The passenger was in the exact same posture. But I swear, beneath the hood, in the pitch black, 2 eyes glinted back at me. "Nice stereo you got there," a quiet voice said from the back seat. But his lips, as far as I could tell from the shadows, didn't even move. And right on cue, second for second, the radio echoed. "Nice stereo you got there." A cold sweat broke out across my forehead. My grip tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I knew I had made a massive mistake. Everything inside me was screaming, "Slam on the brakes and run!" But my body felt completely paralyzed. "Hey, man," I managed to choke out, forcing my voice not to tremble. "I don't think I can make it all the way. I'm feeling really sick. Let me drop you off at the next gas station? There should be one about 6 miles up." The radio roared with static, drowning out my voice, and blared. "Object attempting to reroute. Estimated time to cardiac arrest, 4 minutes. Mile marker 119.
The passenger in the back seat slowly, with a sickeningly smooth motion, began to lean forward toward my seat. In the mirror, I watched his head inch closer and closer to my right shoulder. A wave of cold air emanated from beneath his hood, so freezing it felt like someone had been thrown open a freezer door. And then I noticed the most terrifying part. As we passed a rare reflective highway sign, a flash of light caught his hands. They weren't human hands. They were long, skeletal fingers wrapped in gray, leathery skin. And they had absolutely no fingernails, just sharp, pointed bone tips. "Mile marker 120. Prepare for extraction." The radio shrieked, the audio warping into a deafening, high-pitched squeal. I'm snapped. Letting out a terrified scream, I slammed my foot onto the brake pedal with everything I had. The car fishtailed on the slick asphalt, spun 180 degrees, and skidded hard onto the gravel shoulder. The headlights cut into an impenetrable wall of trees. The engine sputtered and died. A suffocating, ringing silence swallowed the car. The radio went dead. I sat there, chest heaving, terrified to move a muscle. Slowly, inch by inch, I forced my head around to look at the back. The back seat was completely empty. The only thing left behind was a small puddle of filthy, swamp-smelling water on the floor mat. I was shaking so hard my teeth were chattering. Somehow, I managed to twist the key in the ignition. The engine coughed and cranked to life on the second try. Shifting into drive, I floored it back toward the city, pushing my old car to its absolute limit. The speedometer hit 85, but I didn't care about cops, cameras, or the risk of hydroplaning. I just needed to see people, light, anything alive. 20 minutes later, the neon lights of a 24-hour gas station appeared ahead. I swung into the parking lot, slammed the brakes right by the entrance, bolted out of the car, and practically burst through the front doors. A sleepy-looking clerk behind the counter jumped, startled by my pale face and wild eyes. "Hey, man, you all right?" he asked. Yeah, just almost hit a deer out there," I lied, trying to catch my breath. "Can I just grab a coffee and hang out here for a bit?" I bought the coffee and sat at a booth by the window, staring right at my car. Gradually, my pulse started to slow down. It was a hallucination brought on by exhaustion, I told myself. My brain played a trick on me. The radio just picked up some weird interference, and panic did the rest. Half an hour later, the sky began to turn gray with dawn. The city was close. The terror had faded. I thanked the clerk, stepped outside into the crisp morning air, and walked back to my car. I opened the driver's door, slid behind the wheel, and reached for the keys. That's when I noticed the stereo screen. It was glowing. It was turned on, even though I knew for a fact I hadn't turned the key yet. There was no static coming from the speakers. Just pure silence. But a second later, a sharp pop echoed, and that exact same monotone, muffled voice, completely clear now, no interference, right next to my ear, whispered. Object delivered to the drop point. Escort shift concluded. Randall, he's all yours. Mile marker 0. I froze, unable to draw a single breath. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a movement in the rearview mirror. Sitting right in the middle of my back seat was an old, tattered notebook that had never been there before. And across its open page, written in large, jagged letters, as if scratched in by a sharp bone, was a single word. Turnabout. Slowly, my eyes drifted up to the windshield. The gas station, the clerk, the highway, everything was gone. My car was sitting in total, crushing darkness, parked in the middle of a dense, unfamiliar forest. And then, from the passenger side window, someone tapped softly on the glass.